The other big story coming out of Raw Monday night was Batista. Batista crashed the party at the end of Raw. Literally, it was Ric Flair's 70th birthday party, and they invited Sting without the face paint. Ricky Steamboat, Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle was there. As far as we know, Batista wasn't invited. And so he decided to crash the party himself. Triple H went to go introduce Flair to bring him on out. They had all the wrestlers out on stage, parting the Red Sea, waiting for Ric Flair to come on down, but he never came out. Instead, they cut to the back. We saw Big Dave dragging one of the cameramen to Flair's dressing room, which I thought was a nice little touch there. Because, I mean, I guess you could have had the cameraman stationed there anyway, waiting for Rick to come out of the dressing room and just kind of follow him to the ring. I guess that would have made sense. But, yeah, just to show that Batista's not supposed to be there. Come here, I want you to film this. He drags this poor guy over. We don't actually see what happens. We hear a little commotion inside the dressing room, and then the door swings open, and he's dragging Flair's body out into the hallway, and he looks into the camera and just says, "Hey, Hunter, do I have your attention now?" Kind of reminds me of CM Punk. CM Punk said something very similar back during the summer of Punk in 2011. Do I have everybody's attention now? So despite the entire roster standing out there on stage, nobody thought to run to the back to rescue this 70-year-old man who was just pummeled on his birthday, no less. That was Triple H's job, of course, in storyline. We can't move. Our feet are frozen. We have to let Triple H run to the back. And, of course, by the time he got back there, because Triple H is no marathon runner, Dave was gone. I thought this was a great cliffhanger ending to this show. And a great way to kick off this Triple H Batista program for WrestleMania. 7 million views on YouTube for Batista's return. That's more than Roman Reigns got for his remission announcement. 7 million views. That's a lot. That's a lot. I love this angle. Once they blew off the arrest angle earlier in the night with Becky Lynch, I tweeted out, I said, well, I guess this paves the way for them, if they want to shoot a big angle at the end of the show with Batista and Triple H to tease their WrestleMania match. That's exactly what they did. You had to know that they were only doing this party to shoot a big angle of some kind. I think it was Lance Storm who tweeted before the show. He goes, man, am I the only one hoping that this Ric Flair party really isn't just an angle and it's just really a party to honor the guy, and he comes out and speaks? And I just thought to myself, yeah, I think you might be. Because we've seen that. Look, Ric Flair got the greatest send-off of any wrestler ever when he, quote-unquote, retired in 2008. We saw this already. He was in the ring and Steamboat came out, and I think Greg Valentine came out. All these different people came out. It was this great send-off. I remember it went to almost 11:30 that night. One of the best, maybe the best ending ever to an episode of Monday Night Raw was that night in 2008 after WrestleMania 24 when Ric Flair got his retirement send-off. And, we're in WrestleMania season here. So, yeah, I'd like for them to move forward with these WrestleMania storylines, because this card is kind of lacking right now. This card needed something like this. They don't have anything better planned. They had to get something going. And Ric Flair has been honored enough in the past. So you knew going into this, you hoped and you expected that this was going to be the setup to some kind of angle or match for WrestleMania. You all saw the Evolution reunion on SmackDown 1000. What did I say after that show? That was the first seed planted for the eventual WrestleMania match. We know that Batista was already in talks with them about a return. This was no secret. He said for years now that he wanted to come back. He wanted to have one more WrestleMania match with Triple H. That was his preferred opponent. And not only did he want to wrestle Triple H, he wanted to put him over. I guess because back in '05, when Batista was first on the ascent, Triple H put him over. In fact, he put him over in 3 straight pay-per-view matches. So I guess in his mind, Big Dave, he wants to pay it forward. Or actually, would it be considered paying it forward if you're putting over the old guy who already put you over? Wouldn't paying it forward mean you're putting over a new guy? Well, he doesn't want to do that. He wants to put over Triple H. He already put over the new guy. Dave Batista tapped out to Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. He already did more than I think he was even expected to do. This is what he wants. He wants to put over Triple H. Because we all know if anybody needs to be put over here, it's Triple H. But during that Evolution reunion, if you remember Batista, he pointed out, he said, look, Hunter, you never beat me one-on-one. All the matches that you and I had, you never beat me. And Triple H sort of dismissed it. Now Batista says, do I have your attention now? I assume that's what he'll be, when he comes out on Raw tomorrow night. That was what he was referring to with that line. I love heel Batista. I think he is absolutely great in that role. Even back when he was wearing the leather vest, it was that way too brief period when he was the WWE champion in 2010, and he came out in the leather vest and he was talking about how John Cena's out there kissing babies and hugging fat girls while he's, at the gym working out. He was great. And so Triple H then has to be the babyface if we're going to be going with heel Batista. And what better way to get heel heat than to have him beat up Ric Flair? My idea to have Becky Lynch be the one to beat up Flair and maybe put him in the arm bar and threaten to break his arm unless they reinstate her and give her back her WrestleMania match, that was all predicated on Charlotte being part of this segment, which she wasn't. She was nowhere to be found. That whole idea was all predicated on the idea that Charlotte would have been out there, and maybe her and Rick would have been yucking it up at Becky's expense and trying to get booed and get heel heat, and then Becky would come out and threaten to break the old man's arm, and she would get cheered when they reinstated her. That way, if Becky beat him up, people would be less likely to turn on her. So that would have been the idea. But here, Flair didn't do anything wrong. He didn't even get to come out. He was just coming out to celebrate his birthday, and this guy got manhandled. I will say this. Do I really want to see babyface Triple H wrestling at WrestleMania? No, I do not. No, I do not. I didn't need to see it last time at WrestleMania 29 when he beat Brock Lesnar, and I really don't feel like I need to see it now either. But I like Batista as the arrogant heel enough to tolerate it. So if that's what it takes, then so be it. And I think the build-up to this is going to be a lot of fun. The build-up is probably going to be a lot better than the match. The match, that I don't know. I don't know how that's going to go. But there is one way that I think they can make this match really interesting and really mean something. I was thinking along the same lines as Cody, one of our listeners, not the other Cody, when he sent me this message on Facebook. I want to make sure I at least give him credit on this too, because he was thinking along the same lines. What if we come to find out, in light of Vince McMahon coming out all these weeks and making these unilateral decisions about who gets suspended and who's going to go to WrestleMania, he's overruling Triple H and Stephanie left and right, it feels like. What if we find out that he's the one who told Batista to go ahead and attack Ric Flair? Or even if he didn't tell him to do it, he comes out in support of Batista, in support of what he did to Triple H's friend, much to the chagrin of Triple H and Stephanie. Now Triple H and Vince have a big blow-up over Vince's behavior of late. He says, Vince, he's either lost his mind or, you're drunk with power. And the match at WrestleMania between Triple H and Batista is for control of WWE. Vince doesn't approve of some of the decisions that his daughter and his son-in-law have made of late. He's felt the need to correct them on his own. He questions their judgment. He questions their fitness to take the reins one day of WWE. And he wants to take away their power. Triple H, he's willing to agree to all that if Vince agrees to put up his position in the company. And so the match at WrestleMania is for control of WWE, with Batista basically serving as Vince's surrogate in that match. At least that would make sense out of what's been going on lately. I have to assume that it's headed somewhere, that whole storyline with Vince making these decisions. I have to think that's going somewhere. But to build to some kind of a payoff at WrestleMania would make sense to me. And it would be a great way to write Vince off television. With again, he's the bad guy in this equation. He suspended Becky Lynch, who everybody loves, and took her out of the WrestleMania main event. He screwed over Kofi Kingston, who everybody loves, and took him out of the championship match for now at WrestleMania. Triple H would clearly be the fan favorite in that match, right? Because people would want him to gain power. They'd want Vince to go away. They'd want to sing the Na 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 song and send him on his way. So I do kind of look at this, though. The idea that the fans would want Triple H to win and would want Triple H to get more power. And I laugh and I say, be careful what you wish for, right? Because this is, after all, the same Triple H who was on SmackDown, 3 weeks ago? Telling Becky Lynch to ignore the fans, ignore what we think, because what we think doesn't matter. But I guess in this case, we would be forced to choose between the lesser of two evils.